Hello, dear friends. Welcome on this e-learning platform of Apex Institute of Physics. In this video, we will talk about Kirchhoff's laws. If you remember the previous video, we talked about the capacitor circuits. To solve the complex capacitor circuits or a circuit of any type, we need to have certain laws, and Kirchhoff's laws are very important for that purpose. So let's talk about what the Kirchhoff's laws are. Kirchhoff has given two laws to solve the circuits, and the first law is known as junction law. So first law is known as junction law, that's a J, junction law. We are going to talk about these laws in terms of charge, and later on in the next chapter this can also be used in terms of current. So junction law simply says whenever there is going to be a circuit, there can be a junction. At the junction, whatever the charge is flowing toward the junction is going to be equal to the charge moving outside from that junction. Just to illustrate, let's say in any circuit we find this junction point, and a wire is coming from, let's say, this side, and a wire is going here and another wire is going here. Let's say this kind of connection this is a part of the circuit, and if I'm showing a charge is moving here and the charge is moving here in this way, in this direction, in this way, these are the arrows. If I have shown those arrows, if I say this Q1 charge was coming in towards the junction, Q2 left the junction, Q3 left the junction. So this P point, which is known as the junction, at this P point we can apply a law, and that law is going to be junction law. And this law simply says whatever the charge is coming toward this junction has to be equal to the charge leaving this junction, because this junction is neither source nor sink of charge, so charge remains conserved. So whatever the charge comes in, that has to leave, right? So this junction law is based on charge conservation. So we can say this is based on conservation of charge. Conservation of charge. And we have understood or earlier learned the properties of charge, and one of the properties of charge was charge remains conserved for an isolated system. So charge is whatever the charge is coming, that must leave. So junction law basically says, if we write it, so we can write in this manner, charge coming in, charge flowing or coming in or entering, or whatever we can write. So charge coming towards a junction is equal to the charge leaving that junction. That junction, there could be n number of branches, but we need to see from which branch, or what are the branches from which it is coming toward the junction and from which branches is going away from the junction. So we can say in this particular example, this Kirchhoff's junction law is going to be equal to, as Q1 is equal to Q2 plus Q3. So Q1 must be equal to Q2 plus Q3. That's what the junction law says, and that's very simple. At all junctions, we are going to say that incoming charge is equal to outgoing charge. If suppose Q2 is 0, then we will find Q1 will be equal to Q3. And that's obvious point, right? In one conductor, the same charge flows in. So that's important junction law. I hope that's understood. That's a simple one. And the next is called Loops law. So that's called Loops law. This law is related with the loop, in case of a circuit. What is loop and what that means, let me describe here. So if we have any circuit, that circuit is going to have a loop because it has to be closed. At least one loop is going to be there. So if I draw a simplest of the circuits, let's say we are having one capacitor and connected with one battery. So thus a battery has a certain EMF or potential difference called E, let's say, and this capacitance is C. So we will say there's going to be some charge distribution. We will say this is how the charge has migrated or moved. So charge goes from here, that's a Q charge, let's say. So this Q charge resides on this positive plate and that's going to be negative plate. We know this is always a positive terminal, this is a negative terminal. So we'll find that this is a loop. Loop is closed loop basically. If you start from this terminal, you move all the way, you can come back to the same point. So that's one loop. That's a simplest circuit. In one circuit we can have multiple loops. So for each and every loop there is going to be a law. So we will identify a loop, and for that loop we are going to write this law. What this law says, if we move across or in a complete closed loop, then from where we are starting we must reach to the same point, and we know this point is going to have a particular potential. So if we are starting from this potential and coming back to the same potential, same point, so we will get the same potential. That means when we move across a loop, the potential difference is going to be zero. So that means in the path, if we are going to find several elements, so we will be writing the potential difference across all the elements. We are going to sum them up. We will find the resultant must be zero. Right. So let me write what the statement says. In short, this says potential. Let me write completely. Potential drops. And the language, I'm not writing potential difference. I'm more specific now. I'm writing potential drops. That means potential decrease I'm writing. So potential drops across a closed loop is always zero. What does that mean? It simply means if we write all the potential drops and sum them up across a closed loop, then the sum is going to be zero. Then the sum of potential drops across a closed loop is zero. And what does that mean in this particular example? We can write over here. So if we consider this example of a loop and we try to write the potential drop across this loop, let's say we are starting from this point, let's call this point as a point A, and we are moving across this point A and coming back to this point A back. So when I'm moving from A to this word, let's say this point is B point. So from going from A to B, there's going to be no potential drop or difference. But when we move from B to, let's say this point is D, or terminal is D, so there is going to be a potential difference because of this capacitor. So we will try to write the potential drop. And then if, let's say, moving from D to F point, there's going to be no potential difference because of this conducting wire. Again, when we move from this F point to A point, there's going to be drop because of difference because of this battery. So since there are two elements, so we will find 2 times potential difference will occur. Now out of this potential difference, we need to write the potential drops. That means we will be considering decrease in potential as a positive. If the potential does not drops, rather it increases, then we will be placing a minus sign for that purpose, right? So let's say we are moving from A to B, there's no drop. When we are moving from B to D, then there is going to be a potential difference because of this capacitor, and this Q charge is here. So we know how much the potential difference is. Q by C is the potential difference. So potential difference across the capacitor is Q by C. Now we need to see whether this is a drop or there is a gain. If it is a drop, we are going to write as positive. If there is a gain, we are going to write as a negative. So when we are moving from B to D, we are moving from higher potential to lower potential. So when we are moving from higher potential to lower potential, there has to be a drop. So that means Q by C is the drop of potential when we go from B to D. So we have written as a positive. Then again moving here, coming to this battery, when we are moving from F to E, this F to A point back, then the potential difference is going to be E. That's going to be the potential difference. But if you see carefully, this is going to, this time we are moving from minus terminal to plus terminal. That means there is a gain in the potential. If there is a gain in the potential, we need to write as a minus. So we will be writing this as a minus. So we have calculated the potential drops across the loop. This must be equal to 0. And that's the simplest equation that we have already used. So this is going to be the Kirchhoff's equation, Kirchhoff's loop's law. And if we simplify this, from here we can find what the charge on the capacitor is going to be. That's going to be C into E. Right? That could also be calculated. That could also have been calculated by using the simplest concept, like potential difference across this capacitor is same as that of a battery. But this law is more general. This can be applied in any loop having n number of circuit elements. Circuit elements means battery, capacitor. Later on we will find resistances, inductors. So all these circuit elements will have a potential differences, and out of that potential difference we will look at potential drops. To identify the potential drops, we must be able to know which terminal is a positive, which terminal is a negative, and then we must be sure in which direction we are moving. So accordingly we will assign the sign. If we are moving in the direction in which the potential drops is taking place, we will write it as a positive. If we are moving in a direction in which the potential gain is taking place, we are going to write negative. We will sum them up and will be putting it to 0. Right? So if we follow this concept, we can find out equation for all the loops, and that equation that we found is based on the Loop's law. Now there are several methods to deal the same thing. Some textbooks also write it otherwise, and that's equally valid. Instead of writing the potential drops, you can also write the potential gains, and across the loop you will find out again answer is going to be 0. The reason being, right hand side is 0, so if I place if I multiply this left hand side with a minus sign, it hardly matters, right? So either of the rule you follow, it works. But in our learnings we are going to follow the potential drops across the closed loop to be 0, and the potential drops will be treated as a positive. If there is a potential gain, we are going to write a negative of it, and we are going to sum them numerically to get the answer. Fine. So that's Loop's law, and earlier it was the junction law. These two laws are known as Kirchhoff's laws. The junction law was based on the conservation of charge. That's an important point. Similarly, somebody can ask what is the law on which this Loop's law is valid, right? So this Loop's law is valid on the conservation of energy. So we will say this is based on conservation of energy, or energy conservation of energy. So again, let me re-explain what these two laws says, and then we will be using them very frequently in the circuits, and they are very, very important in solving these circuits. First is a junction law. That means at any junction we are going to go and we are going to see what are the charges are going in, what are the charges are leaving it. Sum of all the incoming charges is equal to sum of all the outgoing charges. That's what we are going to say, and it's based on the charge conservation, right? And for that law to apply, we first need to identify or assume the flow of charges, and then we will make this equation, and then we will be going for the next law, that's called Loop's law. In this is valid for or this is applied for a loop, and in a loop we move across the loop and write all the potential drops. Then the sum of all the potential drops is going to be 0, because from where we started we come back to the same position, and we know the same point has the same potential, so the potential difference becomes 0. So that's basic law, simple law we are using over here. Now let's see some example in which we will apply this junction law and Loop's law and try to grasp this Kirchhoff's laws. So here is an example. In this example we will be solving the circuit, and I'm going to explain a general method to handle complex circuits using the Kirchhoff's laws. So let's say there's a circuit given to us. This is a circuit. Let me explain what the circuit indicates. This is a battery of 30 volt, and there are 3 capacitors connected. The upper one is a 1 microfarad, the downside is a 2 microfarad, and this is a 6 microfarad. And we need to find, the question says find charge on each capacitor. So that means we need to find what the charge in each capacitor is going to be. Now this question is relevant because once we are able to find the charge on each capacitor, we can find out what the energy these capacitors are going to store. We can also find out what the potential difference across these capacitors are going to be. We can also find what the total charge from the battery is going to be. Hence we can also find out what the work done by the battery is going to be. So all the details can be identified once we know the charge on the capacitors. So how we proceed in these kind of questions, let's talk about the general strategy. Strategy is this is a battery. We know in battery plus minus they are clear. The bigger plate is a positive, smaller is a negative, as we have earlier talked about. We will assume that this battery supplies certain amount of charge Q, and that Q charge flows through this channel to goes here, and this is a junction where this charge has to be divided. So this charge will get divided into 2 branches, one in upside, another in this side. We will be assuming the charge moving upside is, let's say, Q1. The charge moving in this is Q2. We also know if the charge is coming in, so that becomes a positive plate of the capacitor, this becomes the negative plate. So this is also going to be positive, this is also going to be negative. Now you might be observing the difference. For a battery, plus is fixed because of its terminals. For a capacitor, it's the charge that enters in decides the positive sign, right? And this Q1, as per our discussion in the previous videos, will be leaving this capacitor. Similarly, this Q2 will be leaving this capacitor, and they will again meet at this junction. Once they are meeting, then they will form another charge which will be moving here. That's going to be positive plate, and that's going to be a negative plate, and that will be returning back. Now we know this Q charge has been divided into Q1 and Q2. So when Q1 Q2 will combine together, they will recreate Q. So that means this charge that we are talking about is a Q. Hence we will find the demand of the battery is also fulfilled, which says whatever the charge it delivers, the same has to come back from the negative terminal. So this is how we will assume the charges on each and every capacitors. Suppose there would have been a very complex system, we would have followed like this. From one battery we will start it, and we will keep on distributing until we come back to the same point. Right? Here, once we are able to find the values Q, Q1 and Q2, then we will be able to find the charges on each capacitors. Like 1 microfarad will have a charge Q1, 6 microfarad will have a charge Q, 2 microfarad will have a charge Q2, and the battery will deliver Q charge. So Q, Q1 and Q2, these are the 3 unknown quantities we want to solve out of the circuit. Right? If we want to solve these 3 quantities, we need to have at least 3 equations. So for that says we are going to apply junction law. So let's apply junction law. Can you see where to apply and what it is going to give us? So we can apply junction law at this junction, or might be at this junction, both will give the same result because there is no other junction. So at this junction or that junction we apply. So we will say, let's at this junction we will say what is the charge incoming is a Q, what is outgoing Q1 Q2. So the equation will become Q is equal to Q1 plus Q2. So that's one relation that we are able to find using the Kirchhoff's law. That's called junction law. Then we will talk about the loops law, and there will be several loops that we will be identifying, and we are going to write laws for that. Loops law. We need to know 2 more equations to get our answer. So let's first identify the loops. Can we see a loop running from a 30 volt battery to 2 microfarad to 6 microfarad, the bigger loop downside? Yes. So applying that, let's call that loop as a loop A, and apply Loop's law for this loop A. So for loop A, we are trying to apply the Loop's law. What that Loop's law is going to be? So let's start from this point and move ahead. So from this point we are moving no potential difference. This is going to be the first time potential difference, and rather is going to be potential drop, and as per our rule, Q by C is the potential drop. So we are going to write Q2, which is the charge, in divided by C. C is a 2 microfarad. I am writing the capacitance in microfarad so that the charge is in microcoulomb. So micro will get cancelled out. That means our charge will come in microcoulomb terms. Then we will move ahead from this element. Next element is going to be this. Again we will find that there's going to be a drop because we are moving from plus to minus. So that's going to be the charge and capacitance, which is Q charge, and capacitance is 6. And when we proceeded to further, and then we will encounter this element, which is going to have a potential gain of 30. So we will write minus 30. So as we write minus 30, so that becomes potential drop, and this must be equal to 0. Let's call that as equation number 2. Or we can say, we can simplify this equation a bit if you want, so that we can have a easy calculation later on. Let's say multiply this entire step by 6, so that will become 3 Q2 plus Q is equal to 180. So that's the second equation. Now if we can get another relation between Q, Q1 and Q2, then there will be 3 equations and we will be able to solve the question, right? So we need to identify another loop. Let's say this small loop upside is a loop B. So we will be writing one equation for the loop B. If we write the equation for the loop B and using the Kirchhoff's law, Loop's law, so what that going to be? Let's be starting from this junction point, moving in this sense. When we are moving in this way, then we are going to encounter this element of 1 microfarad. But the way we are moving, this is going to be from plus to minus, a drop. So drop will be written as Q by C. Q, the charge on it, which is Q1. C, which is 1 microfarad. We are writing the capacitance in microfarad, so that charge will be written in microcoulomb. So it's Q1 by 1. That's potential drop across this. Then we will reach into the junction. Then we need to come back. When we are coming back, then we are moving from minus terminal to plus terminal. In this time we are moving in such a way so that the potential gain is taking place. So for gain we are going to put a minus. And how much the gain is going to be? The charge on the capacitor divided by the capacitance. And after writing this term, we have reached to the original point, because in this loop there were 2 elements, so we got 2 terms, one positive, another negative. This has to be equal to 0. Now we can simplify this further. So this will be saying Q2 is equal to 2 times Q1. So that's our third relation. Now we have got 3 equations or 3 relations, and there are 3 unknowns, Q1, Q2 and Q. Mathematically we can solve these 3 relations to find Q1, Q2 and Q. Let's try to find these values. To find these values, what we can do, we can go for using these 3 equations. So first let's use 1 and 2 and replace a small q over there. So solution, I'm going to write solution over there. So using 1 and 2, if we use equation 1 and 2, then we can substitute q over here, so that will become equal to thrice q2 plus small q, that is small q will become q1 plus q2. This was equal to 180. Now calculation you can perform based on your own abilities as well. So this will be equal to q1 plus 4 times q2 is equal to 180. Now with this equation we can use another equation, that equation number 3, and using the 3 we can put the Q2 over here. So using 3 now, we will be placing the Q2 back over here, so this will become Q1 plus 4 times Q2, and Q2 is twice Q1. This is going to be equal to 180. Now if we simplify this, we will find 2 and 4, 8, 8 and 1, 9, 9 Q1 is equal to 180. From here we will be able to find the value of Q1. So the value of Q1 comes out to be, if we divide it by 9, so it becomes 20. So it becomes 20 microcoulomb. So 20 microcoulomb charge is going to be on the capacitor 1. Once we have found the Q1 value, using the third equation we can easily find the Q2 value, since Q2 is twice of the Q1. So we will double it, so it becomes 40. 40 microcoulomb is the answer for the charge residing on this 2 microfarad. Once we are able to find Q1 and Q2, we can also find Q by using the equation number 1 which we had here. And it says we sum this Q1 plus Q2 to get the Q, so this 20 plus 40 will become 60 microcoulomb. So these all three together will make the answer. So this is our answer. That means we have found the charge on the capacitor 1 microfarad, the charge on the capacitor 2 microfarad, the charge on the capacitor 6 microfarad. Moreover, we can also find out the charge flowing through the battery, which is 60 microcoulomb. Moreover, these charges are coming positive. That means the direction that we have considered, they are correct. That means this positive terminal is correct, this negative terminal is correct. So everything that has been shown in this figure is correct. Now what happens if some of the quantities would have been negative? So in case any quantity would have been negative, we will be considering it the sense that we assumed is to be changed or reversed, right? So first we assume the charge distribution, then we go for the law called junction law, then we go for the Loops law, and then we solve these equations to find out the final values. This is how we apply the Kirchhoff's laws. And using this, we can solve any type of circuit given to us. For that sake, what we need to know how the charges are getting distributed, and that we need to assume earlier. And then we need to know how to write the potential difference across various elements. So in future complex circuits, what is going to be coming in as a new member of circuit elements? And for those new members, we will be just finding what the potential difference across them is, how to write the potential difference. Just like across the battery, the potential difference is given there. Across the capacitance, the potential difference is Q by C. Across the resistance, the potential difference as per the Ohm's law is V equal to IR. Similarly for inductor we are going to find, right? And we will be writing the potential drops and summing them up to put to 0. We will get our answer. I hope this method of finding out the or solving the circuit or finding out the quantities unknown in the circuit is understood, and this is the strategy we are going to follow. So let me give you homework or question to try to solve the circuit. So this first homework is like to solve this circuit, and we are asking find charge on each capacitor. So you need to find the charge on each capacitor, and then you need to answer on the comment box below what the charges you are going to go. For answer in comment box, on comment or comment box, you answer only for, let's say, charge on 3 microfarad. So we are interested to know on the comment section charge on 3 microfarad. So that will be expected from you, that you can find out the charge on 3 microfarad, and if that is correct, so we can think of rest you would have been done correctly. Idea would be that you consider a charge from this positive terminal, let come the charge at this junction, then there is going to be 3 branches, let it go, Q1, Q2, Q3, then they collect it back, then come back, apply the junctions law and Loops law, and that could be handled. And going beyond this, there's going to be another example as well. So let me give that example. This example also asks about find charge on each capacitor. Find charge on each capacitor. Now this example is a bit different from the earlier one, and again we will follow the same rules, Kirchhoff's laws. And in this case we are having not a one battery, but there are multiple batteries, like 10 volt battery is there, 25 volt battery is there, 30 volt battery is there, and there are 3 capacitors. Earlier in this picture there was only one battery and the capacitors, but it hardly makes a difference for us. What going to be the idea of solving this is going to be the same as earlier. So let me just give you the hint what you can do for that purpose. You can start from anywhere. Let's say you're starting from the 30 volt battery, and you say from here a Q charge has gone, so that Q charge is going to move like this and let it go here. Then at this junction you divide into 2 parts. You can call it as a, let's say, Q1 is passing through this, so Q1 will migrate from here and will pass through over there, and from here you will find, let's say, Q2 is coming, so that's Q2 will be moving through this branch and coming back here again, it will be making it Q. So you'll find this is how the charge distribution that we are assuming, or you can assume this kind of charge distribution, right? And once you have assumed charge distribution, and then you can go further applying the Kirchhoff's junction law and Loops law. And this charge distribution will help you assign the signs on the capacitor plus minus accordingly. And signs of the batteries are fixed because of their positive or bigger plate and negative lower plate. And then you can write the Kirchhoff's laws and solve for Q, Q1 and Q2, making 3 equations. Once you are able to find Q, Q1 and Q2, then you will find what the signs they are going to carry. If they are going to carry the positive sign, that means the arrows or the direction that you have made is correct. If you are getting a negative sign, you just change the direction, that's all. So that's going to be a hint for solving this question, and I hope you can try. You can write the equations, and again on the comment box below you need to answer a specific answer you need to give. So you just give on the comment the answer, comment the charge flowing through 25 volt battery. So we need to find how much the charge is flowing through that battery, and that means what we need to basically find is to be calculated is Q2. So we need to find the Q2 value, and then we need to comment whether this battery is being used or this battery is being charged, what's happening with that battery. So that's all for this video, and if you are able to answer these 2 questions correctly, that means we will be able to say that you have got the idea of Kirchhoff's laws, and they are very, very important, particularly for the next chapter, which is called current and electricity. This will become the base and soul of that chapter. Well, so if you have any doubt or question or queries, you can put in the comment, and that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Have a great time.